All right, today's video, we're going to talk about a couple of things. First and foremost, we're going to talk about Dricus Du Plessis. He's fighting Sean Strickland next week. We all know it is highly anticipated. We can't wait for that fight. But he did an interview and he's already saying now that he's not going to fight Khamzat Chimaev if he is victorious. He says that Khamzat Chimaev doesn't deserve a title fight, and I'm sorry. I've got to disagree with that. I'm a massive fan of Dricus Du Plessis, but I think he's wrong on that one, okay? Also, we're going to talk about the co-main event of today's fight. By the time you're watching this, it is Saturday. Johnny Walker, Magomed Ankalaev 2 will be going down in this building, okay? But the co-main event is no more. Matheus Nicolau, Manel Kape, cancelled because Manel Kape came in 3.5 pounds over. So, I'm going to get into a couple of things. But first of all, I'm going to explain where I am. I am in my dressing room here at the UFC Apex, okay? One of Brendan Fitzgerald's suits there. One of Dominic Cruz's little tiny suits there. Oh, the glamour. It's the only place that didn't have an echo right now for me to do this video for you. So, Dricus Du Plessis, right? I think he's already in Canada. Sean Strickland isn't, because as I'm recording this, Sean Strickland is on the other side of that wall. He's doing an interview, so he hasn't flown up there yet. But let's be honest, America is a lot closer to Canada than what South Africa is. So, not really much of a time difference for Sean. A 3-hour time difference from South Africa. It's probably about 9 hours, mate. Here is what Dricus Du Plessis had to say. He was asked about Khamzat Chimaev being the next opponent, and he's not up for it. Dricus Du Plessis is not feeling the vibe on that one. He said, as far as I know, Khamzat is a welterweight. What middleweight did he fight? He fought at middleweight, but he fought a welterweight in Usman. Gerald Meerschaert, when was that? Was he even ranked? No, he wasn't ranked, so that makes absolutely no sense. First of all, on that comment right there, Sean Strickland's a welterweight. Sean Strickland started his career as a welterweight. When I used to train with Sean, he said, I'm dropping down to welterweight. He said, because you guys are too big at 185. Of course, he came up to 185 and the man's become a champion. Robert Whittaker, the last guy that Dricus beat, was a welterweight before he came up to 185, right? Khamzat Chimaev, yes, fought the bulk of his career at welterweight, but he has fought at 185 on 2 occasions. Gerald Meerschaert, boom, one-punch knockout, and then a back-and-forth very close fight with Kamaru Usman. And he was pretty much guaranteed a title fight by Dana White, if I'm not mistaken. So that is the next fight. So, but here's what he had to say. Dricus went on to say, the UFC promised him a title fight. Mate. Where in the world does that happen? And he's saying he's fighting Strickland. No, you're not. If there's a champion, if you get a title shot, I'm the champion and you're not going to get a title shot. And Israel Adesanya, that makes sense. So he's talking about fighting Israel Adesanya, right? And that does make sense, right? I feel like, I talked about this recently, Dricus Du Plessis, if he does become the champion, right, there's a lot of options for him, right? But number one option is probably Khamzat Chimaev. Yes, Israel Adesanya, there is beef there. They've squared off in the octagon. They went back and forth. They're both claiming to be the real African and all this type of stuff. There's a lot of hype and promo material for that fight. However, Israel just came out. He's injured. He's actually attending rehab as we speak. Right? I don't know what the injury is. He didn't go into details, but he is back in the gym. He is back training, and I would love to see Izzy back in there as well, because the man's still got a lot to give. Although, let's be honest, he looked like shit against Sean Strickland. Now, maybe that was Sean Strickland, right, just being that good on the night. Or maybe it was Israel Adesanya being a bit burned out because of the crazy schedule that he had. But when you look at the middleweight division, if it's not going to be Sean Strickland, and if it isn't Israel Adesanya, then who is it going to be? Let me just bring up the rankings here real quick. So, obviously, the champion has a name, and that man's name is Sean Strickland, right? And he's fighting him next week. Number 1, Israel Adesanya. We just went through that, right? We'd love to see that fight, right? But he's injured right now. Dricus Du Plessis is number 2. After that, we've got Robert Whittaker. He's beaten Robert Whittaker. Then it's Jared Cannonier. Now, Jared Cannonier lost a really close fight to Sean Strickland, and that might be a feasible opponent. That might be somebody that we kind of agree to, and if the UFC made that fight, then fair enough. I'm not sure right now off the top of my head if Jared has something booked. I kind of feel like he has, but I can't remember. Then we got Marvin Vettori. You know, love Marvin Vettori. The man's an absolute warrior. He's got a chin of iron. He punches like a truck. But he's not the guy right now. Paulo Costa, I think he's fighting Robert Whittaker soon, so he's booked up anyway. But that is going down relatively soon if what I'm hearing is correct. So, I mean, Paulo Costa, if he gets through Robert Whittaker, that would be a great fight. Let's remember, right? Dricus Du Plessis, Paulo Costa. I mean, I would pay to see that fight. That would be all-out violence. And then after that, you're getting down to the Roman Dolidze's, Brendan Allen's, and your Khamzat Chimaev's. Now, granted, Khamzat Chimaev is ranked number 9, okay? And that's probably another reason why Dricus says that he doesn't deserve it, okay? Fair enough, he's ranked number 9, but he's got a ton of hype. He just beat Kamaru Usman, who, yes, was a welterweight, but he was the pound-for-pound number 1. He was a long-time welterweight champion for many defenses. I think it was 5, right? And on top of that, Dana said, whoever wins, Kamaru or Khamzat, they get to fight for the belt. So there it is. There it is. Khamzat Chimaev is also undefeated. He's 6 or 7-0 in the UFC. And he's a big star, right? Khamzat Chimaev gets numbers. Why do you think I'm doing this video? We're talking about Khamzat. People love Khamzat, right? Love him or hate him. The man brings a lot of eyeballs. He brings a lot of tension. And he brings a lot of drama as well. Even if he misses weight, he's sticking 2 fingers up to the crowd, right? He's a phenomenal competitor. He's a ridiculously good wrestler. He has got to work on the gas tank a little bit. Every time it's got out of the first round and the fight's been a little bit longer, Khamzat has got tired. So Dricus Du Plessis, what's he doing? Well, I don't think Dricus Du Plessis is the type of guy to duck somebody. I don't think he's trying to pick easy fights. Israel Adesanya is not an easy fight. I think maybe for him, he just wants to fight Israel Adesanya because of their beef, because of their rivalry, because of his, let's be honest, I won't say hatred, because of his dislike for Israel Adesanya. Okay, them two, they shared some choice words, shall we say, that shall not be repeated by me. Oh, no, no. So, yeah, I think it's just a hatred for Israel Adesanya and wanting to settle that once and for all. And, yeah, Izzy's a big star and Khamzat's a big star, right? And as the champion, you get a cut to the pay-per-view, right? So I think both of them will be good. But if Izzy is injured, there's a hard sentence. If Izzy is injured, which he is, and he's not going to fight anytime soon, right? Then who's he going to be? Because, by the way, Israel Adesanya is going to be in Toronto. He's going to be there as a guest fighter. He's going to be there to cause a bit of hype. But I don't know if he's going to be there to call out the winner of that fight. But hey, what do I know? Certainly not that. Anyway, I told you, tonight, by the time you're watching this, Johnny Walker, Magomed Ankalaev. Great rematch. But the co-main event is off. Right, Manel Kape came in at 139.5 pounds, which is just, it's bad. It's really, really bad for him.
Nothing pisses me off more than guys not making weight.
It's bad for his career. It's bad for our fight night. We've lost a tremendous fight on this card. Still a great night of fights, though. Some very, very intriguing matchups. But Manel Kape's got to get that together, man. I'm a fan of his. I love the way he fights. This was a great rematch. And I think by all accounts, Matheus Nicolau was happy to still accept the fight. He was going to not care about the 3.5 pounds and just go ahead. But from what I'm hearing, it was his manager. His manager stepped in and said, no way. No way you're doing this, because statistically over the years, people that miss weight, I think the odds are stacked in their favor to win the fight, okay? Because you got to think, did they push themselves the last 20 minutes? Did they do that final hour? Whatever it was in the sauna, right? And if they didn't do that, right, and the weight cut wasn't quite as bad, then they're going to come into this one a little bit heavier, a little bit stronger, and able to push a better pace over 3 rounds. So they made the decision, as they are entitled to do, to not take the fight. So Manel Kape, as I say, he's an extremely talented fighter. And if he had won against Matheus Nicolau, he might be, you know, in line, very, very close for a title fight. Well, not now. The stock's dropped, right? As a professional fighter, I've said this many times, you can't guarantee you're going to win the fight. You cannot. You try, you get ready, you train, sacrifice, hard work, dedication, all that stuff. It's true, but you can't control that. You can only control that you show up on weight and in shape. If you're not doing them 2 things, don't consider yourself a professional fighter. I had 40 professional fights. I never missed weight once. Were my weight cuts hard? Of course they were. Were they grueling? Yeah. It takes a lot of getting off your ass and going for runs and sacrifice, not eating the food you want to eat, right? Not partaking, obviously, in alcohol and things like that, and just working your goddamn ass off in the gym. And by the way, fighters know. They know as they're trending towards the fight night, as the date's getting closer, when they get on the scale every single morning, they know if they're not on track, right? All professional fighters do the same thing. I remember when I was fighting, first thing I did was get out of bed, Try and have the longest piss possible. Try and squeeze out a little 1-2 and then get on the scale, because you want to make yourself as light as possible, because anytime you get on the scale and you're not as light as what you want to be, the anxiety, it messes with you big time, because you think, shit, I'm going to have to be even more miserable today, right? I was looking forward to a nice bit of rice and chicken. Now it's just the chicken and broccoli or whatever it is. You got to get your running shoes on and go for a run. Every day you get on the scale, you monitor it closely, and you can't blame a nutritionist. You can't blame your coaches. You can't blame your manager. It's down to the fighter. The fighter knows. And if they don't know, then what are they even doing here? I'm not trying to rip up Manel Kape. I'm a big fan of his. I love the way that he fights. I hate to kick a man while he's down, because both men are annoyed right now, but it is Manel's fault. You've got to make weight. And check this out. Since 2020, Manel Kape, and I don't like saying this, but it's true, this is the facts, Manel Kape has had to withdraw or pull out of 8 fights since 2020, which is madness. Let's go through the list. Rogerio Bontorin, ankle. Alejandro Pantoja, he withdrew from that one. Sumadaji, there was a test issue. Rogerio Bontorin, there was a weight issue. Alex Perez, medical issue. Davison Figueiredo, medical issue. Kai Kara France, medical issue. And of course, this time, Mateus Nicolau coming in 3.5 pounds over, right? As I say, I like Manel, and I'm sure he's not proud of himself right now, but this has got to be rectified going forward. He's got to take inspiration from the greats. And no, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about people like Jim Miller, who's also on this card. Jim Miller that might be fighting Brock Lesnar at UFC 300. And Anthony Smith says he has a 50-50 chance of beating him.
That's what, like, I think that's a 50-50. If Brock Lesnar lands big, Jim Miller goes to sleep and dies.
You're going to take $50,000 on your bank account. You're going to bet it on Jim Miller or Brock Lesnar. You're putting it on Brock Lesnar all day long.
I'm not sure I would.
You're out of your mind. And Jim Miller even says he might pull off a Kimura.
I've trained with plenty of like heavyweight world champ grapplers and stuff like that, and I've subbed them out. So like if I can isolate something, I could Kimura Brock Lesnar. I know that I could.
But no, check this out. Jim Miller, right, this weekend will be competing in his 43rd UFC fights. That in itself is mental, and he has never, ever missed weight. I mean, round of applause for that, man. Right. I think you've heard from me long enough. I am inside the dressing room. It's not the best backdrop, but still, it's a good bit of content for you. Hope you're all well. If you haven't subscribed and rung the bell, do so. What are you waiting for? And I'm going to do a little post-fight reaction, so make sure you check that one out. And I'll be doing a live next week as well. Let me know in the comment section. I'm going to start doing the lives at the same time every week. Okay, just try and get on a bit of a schedule so people know when to expect them. I think I've got a hair out of place. So people know when to expect them. But when works, what do you think the best day is? You let me know, and I shall oblige. Anyway, until then, until next time, take care wherever you are. Bye-bye.